Welcome to the Sleeping Barber podcast.
Let's fuck up in here. That's the way we can start the show. Welcome.
That would be one way.
That would be one way. Would it be on brand or off brand for us?
A little bit of both, I would think. The swearing part's on brand.
Actually, funny story. I saw a YouTube comment under one of our videos for Avanish, and a subscriber wrote, "Avanish got to put has to put money in the swear jar."
Oh yeah.
Anyways, welcome back to another episode of our Barber's Brief. If you're a new listener, we use this forum to discuss marketing and business news that has caught our eye. We like to highlight our market moment, and if we have an audience Q&A, we obviously look to talk about that. But then we always love to finish off with Ad of the Week. It's definitely one of our favorite segments. Mark, good morning.
Good morning, V.
Are you fired up? I'm fired up.
Yeah, it's been a while. Like it feels like I'm putting on a very comfortable sweater right now that I haven't been able to wear for a long time.
Full transparency, listeners, for the month of essentially July and a little bit of August, we had pre-recorded a lot of our Barber's Briefs. It's the first time Mark and I are back kind of in the studio, live together. Live, yes. We're not in the same studio.
I get you.
Our virtual
I'm
studio.
With you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we talk about the news in the same week we actually release it. So it actually makes it kind of cool.
Yeah. And also big in the news,
yeah.
I got a new plant.
You got bamboos for life.
It's bamboo, yeah.
Yours trumps mine, man. I gotta do better.
Oh, that's bamboo in the background of yours?
I have no idea what the heck that is. My wife
I thought it was a quiver of some kind.
It's where my arrows are at.
I just thought it was a light.
There's a light at the top, but I'm gonna have to fix that.
It's a quiver light with arrows. In case you need to go hunting at some point.
I always got what is it? Quivers in my
arrows in my quiver.
Arrows in my quiver. Exactly.
We are really going off track.
It's just how long it's
mostly
been.
my fault. Yeah, I know.
It's all good though. In the news,
yeah,
I'm up actually. So what's
new?
What's new? What's new is what's old. I don't know anymore. But Pmax, we all know Pmax. There's a lot of different products out there from their various vendors. And the one thing that everyone will talk about negatively about Pmax is just how black of a box it really is. But Search Engine Land reported just I think a few weeks ago that there are actually some new features that are rolling out that's going to give a boost to both creative results and a little bit more transparency in its advertising platforms, particularly for Performance Max campaigns. So Google continues to leverage AI to help advertisers create more diverse and high quality assets while providing more transparency into the ad performance and placement. Now, the impact, obviously, these updates aim to help advertisers create more effective ads. They're really trying to become this one-stop shop, if you will, for everything. Like you add funds into it, and then it will determine if it's better to serve a search ad versus a YouTube ad or a display. Think about, I don't know. I sometimes I struggle with Pmax because it's like, well, what's the role of programmatic versus Pmax? What do you prefer as an advertiser versus one versus the other? But again, the biggest knock is usually you don't know where these impressions are going, and there's no report that tells you where that is. Where at least programmatically, you do get that. You know, the impression volume, you know exactly where these ads were served. But it sounds like Google's trying to add a little bit more transparency into where these are. I'm just curious to see when we will see that, because that is one of the biggest knocks against the technology right now as it currently stands. So curious to see what that looks like.
I'm curious what you think about this. Is Pmax an alternative or their strategy for a future decline in search? Like with all the AI tools that are coming out and the in-platform search features and all that kind of stuff.
That's a good question.
Are they trying to broaden their inventory with this? Or their access to inventory?
I think they're trying to reduce the amount of control advertisers have.
Right.
So it becomes one of these things like just let the algorithms do what they need to do. It's less on the optimizations that you can have against it. They are pushing a lot more broad match tactics. So again, and you know that comes with mixed results because it depends what level you are. But I think a lot of people forget Pmax when it was originally launched. It was launched for small businesses. because a lot of them wouldn't have had a lot of those tools, capabilities, let's say like enterprise level companies do, where you have teams behind them, agencies, etc. Whereas a small business, like, you know what, take my 5K, you tell me what's best, and I'm just going to trust it. And I just need to know exactly what, some of the outcomes are, some of the KPIs. But I think its evolution now becoming an enterprise grade tool, I think we're still kind of in this point of there's some trust, not 100% trust in it. A lot of digital marketers still want to retain a lot of that control. So it's, it's one of those not a weird tool. It's a great tool.
Yeah.
But a lot of digital marketers want to have a lot more transparency than it currently shows.
Sure. Understandable.
Yeah. What did you find?
So funny enough, I was doing some competitor analysis, or I was filling in a report or a form that somebody was asking me to do. So I'm running Calgary Marketing Association. I'm super excited about this study we're going to put in market. It's going to be really cool. But as I was working with the team that we brought on to help us write up the study, one of the questions they asked was, "Do you have a competitor analysis?" I'm like, right. I don't think we have one. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, do I care if I have one or not? And I'm like, I know I don't want to SWAT. And we've talked to Roger Martin about that. I'm like, what does Roger Martin have? This is my category. This is like my mind trailing into like how I'm getting here. Don't worry, I'm getting here. Anyway, so then I look at Roger Martin and I'm like, it so happens he just published this article about the best strategy icebreaker.
Yeah.
Which is reverse engineering the playing to win framework to do a competitor analysis. I'm like, this is interesting. Okay, cool. So, we've all done competitor analysis before. We've all done things like benchmarking. We've all done like SWOTs and pests and all that kind of stuff. Perceptual analyses. And so I was really intrigued by this reverse engineering process that he had. So here's the gist. So from a point of view of like doing a competitor analysis, using the playing to win framework, you can look at what your competitor, like pick your best competitor or the one you admire most or your biggest. But then start with where to play. So the segments, the geographies, that kind of stuff. Then you get into how to win. So their value proposition, how they win in the market, how they're creating value for customers. Then you do the others, and it's in that order. So then you can go to winning aspiration. You can do core capabilities. You can do management systems, because some of that stuff isn't as visible as the first two. So the idea, though, is that you don't look at what they say. You look at what they do, because strategy is what you do. It's not what you say. And so this set of choices that you're trying to focus on the differences of what they're doing in comparison to yourself or in comparison to the market, not the similarities, because the similarities is the benchmark. You're not really going to learn from that.
Sure.
And then try and figure out what are the distinctive things that are most responsible for making this competitor your most admired. And then you could ask your team what are the most interesting insights from this reverse engineering process.
Yeah.
So that you can then learn from that and then apply it for yourself or apply it in your own unique way. So to me, I was like, right, that's cool. Like, cause it's executable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Then there's a forward momentum thing that you can use, rather than just doing, well, here's this strengths and their weaknesses and opportunities and threats, that you don't really have something tangible you can do with that. So you only look at the strategic elements and try and understand the choices they made that got them there.
Yeah. It's a framework that just keeps on giving, man. I loved it just from a strategy perspective, and defining that, but I never thought of reverse engineering it, as you said, to do this. And I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
Great job, Roger.
Yeah, totally. All right. What do you got, V?
I don't want to say this is the last time I want to talk about this, but I kind of I want this to be the last time I talk about this. So
let me guess. We're going to talk about it again in a couple months.
I don't know, man.
And they delay the cooking thing.
Well, So it sounds like now they're not, right? They're not touching it.
Oh,
They're not touching it.
okay.
So while we had pre-recorded
Just
this,
give
I
up
saw
on
this. Yeah, so I saw this hit the airways that they're not going to try to deprecate the cookie.
Okay.
It's done. Like we're going to keep the cookie forever.
Okay.
Rejoice, everybody. Even though obviously it's still smarter to go down the path of nurturing your first party data sets to, do your targeting moving forward. But anyways, that's not the point of this. I found a great article on Ad Exchanger that really talks about Google won't kill off the cookies, the consumer will. And this is what's really interesting. And it's probably the way it should have been the whole time. So Google has decided to cancel the deprecation of third-party cookies, allowing consumers to opt out of tracking. Now, a lot of consumers are already doing that.
Yeah.
So it's likely losing steam anyways. But it's up to the consumer if they want to partake in those third-party cookies or not. Now, consumers are increasingly becoming more aware of those privacy rights. I know even my parents are asking me, right? And you wouldn't expect them to. Is like, hey, what are all these pop-ups? Allowing cookies, not allowing cookies. And the moment I explained it to them, I was like, well, I'm going to always reject them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very easy thing for people to follow and people to opt out. And we've seen that from Apple devices. And when you think about app tracking and things like that, people, I think there was like an 80% like opt-out rate, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
which is crazy. The digital advertising industry is moving towards first-party data strategies. So I think that's still the play here. That doesn't change. And just because the cookies aren't quote unquote going away on the number one browser currently being used, that doesn't mean you shouldn't still be venturing down that path.
Right.
And then still make sure you're maintaining and prioritizing your consumer privacy. But the great thing here about all this, it puts the control back into the consumer. So if you think about the future of digital advertising, it will be driven by consumer choice, focusing on trust and data security, which will naturally deprecate the third-party cookie on its own.
Yeah.
So why the hell did we not just do it this way right from the beginning? Instead, we have I guess it gets content for us that we can create, but it just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So can we? I don't want to talk about this again. I'm done. Thanks, Google. God damn it!
Hit a nerve for you.
Oh man, we're keeping it. We're not keeping it. We're cutting it out. 2024 is the year it's going to be deprecated. Everyone, run! Make sure you're adopting all these new technologies. And wah wah. It just shows how hard it actually was, though.
Oh yeah,
that's another thing. Anyways, let's get on to the next one. I'm done.
Related in a little bit, an epic saga of value destruction.
I'm already sold with the title.
I know. This one's about Nike, which honestly floored me when I first saw this because I just always thought of Nike as being a great company, and I really haven't been paying attention since you and I worked together in sport,
in retail.
Yeah, in retail and sporting goods. I don't know. I never really thought about it.
That's
anyway,
fair.
This guy Massimo Junico, I think is how you pronounce his last name. Wrote up this great article and it got shared around a whole bunch. Which was shocking. And so here's the backstory on this. So Nike in about October-ish 2021 had a peak of their share price and it was $165. So in the last, let's call it 3 years, it's almost halved. It's trading around $85 right now.
Crazy.
So this guy does this backstory and tries to reverse engineer how this all happened.
Mm-hmm.
So in January 2020, Nike hired a new CEO, a guy named John Donahue.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Donahue died over the summer.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so sad. I remember he was a big deal when I was growing up. My mom used to love him.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so January 2022 or 2020, Nike hires this new guy. A few months into the job, probably part of his 100-day onboarding thing, he sends out an email announcing his decisions using the guy. Somehow he had this article or the email. Dear Nike colleagues, this is what you asked for. Nike will eliminate categories from the organization such as brand, product development, and sales. Nike will become a DTC-led company, direct-to-consumer-led company, ending the wholesale leadership. Nike will change its marketing model, centralizing it and making it a data-driven and digitally led. So also what's followed in short order is a major reorg to support all these changes. And then Massimo's comment here I thought was really interesting. For the first time in Nike history, long-term vision wasn't about sustainable growth anymore, driven by products, brand, and marketplace leadership. It was about the supremacy of D2C channel led by digital.
Mm-hmm.
So a few of the changes that were made on the brand side of things, the brand team shifted from brand marketing, digital marketing, and from brand enhancing to sales activation. Massive growth in programmatic advertising, driving traffic to Nike.com. Huge creation in membership and members for the Nike website, and all that craze that goes along with it. Part of the problem is, though, the consumers, most of who are occasional buyers, didn't follow Nike to Nike.com. They just continued shopping wherever they were shopping.
Totally.
And that was one of the big ahas that he had. There's a few other things that relate to the supply chain and the issues they had there and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, like shocking to me that first that this has happened. I didn't even, under my nose, so to speak, like I didn't even know that was going on. And then when you kind of peel away the layers of the decisions that were made, you can see how hard it is to right the ship, because so much has been done to reorganize the entire business around this vision.
Totally. And think about, like, Nike's a behemoth, right? So like to course correct this right now will take time.
Yeah.
Are we making like stock advice, like $85? That may not be a bad stock to jump on.
This is not advice. We are not certified to be able to give advice. We are not trained investors.
No, we're definitely do not follow any recommendations. But it's really interesting because, like, I don't want to say, it was a few Barber's briefs ago where we talked about how Nike's really going all in this later half, especially the Olympics. And there was a few, I don't remember, there were a few key moments in time here over the next, try to save the year. So like leaning heavier, I think, into their athletes and whatnot, to try to probably come back and start telling that brand story more consistently, even though it's through maybe a different avenue. It will be interesting how they come out of this because I do anticipate them to react. But yeah, it's really interesting where it's three, maybe like you highlighted, three core things that changed, like a strategic decision was changed to, eliminate brand. How the hell do you do that? But product development and sales, which is really odd. Like Nike used to be synonymous with innovations, which is product development.
Yeah.
Focus on D2C, cutting out the middleman. But anyways.
Yeah. Anyway, it's interesting. Yeah. And I'm just fascinated by that whole thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It sounds to me like you can almost overlay mental, physical availability into that story.
Oh, man. Like if you're just focused on DTC when like people still need to try on shoes.
Yeah. Yeah. And members that are like there or few of them relative to the total market. Like you're cutting out your channels for distribution. Like these are problems.
Yeah.
Like big problems.
That's fair. Yeah. That's fair.
And if it didn't work for Nike, who has a lot of money and a lot of resources.
Yeah.
Maybe think twice about that one.
Yeah. Do a double take.
Yeah. All right. What do you got? Marketing moment.
So marketing moment. I don't think we've ever talked about the Dollar Shave Club, have we?
No, I don't think we have.
Well, I came across it. I was doing, hunting for case studies the last night, and I came across this. I do remember it, but I didn't realize that there's like case studies that were built around this. So in March of 2012, a relatively unknown startup at the time called Dollar Shave Club burst onto the scene with a hilarious and irrelevant video that quickly went viral. It was the only marketing activity that they had around this around the time, and this bold move not only put the Dollar Shave Club on the map, it also disrupted an entire industry that was dominated by Gillette and Chic. Chic, I think it's called the other one, which I think they retained 83% of total, at the time at least, 83% of total market share, which is crazy. Now, it was founded by Michael Dubin and Mark Levine. The Dollar Shave Club aimed to solve a common consumer pain point, which was just really the overpriced and inconvenient razor purchases. So it was one of the first subscription-based models. If you remember, like 2012, subscription-based models started becoming a thing. I remember even at Check, we were looking at how do we build
subscription boxes.
subscription boxes, etc.
Yeah.
And basically, they promised high quality razors to deliver directly to consumers' doors at a fraction of the cost. I think it was like $1 a razor, and then $2 per razor, and then it was like $3 to ship or something. At least in the US,
Yeah.
it sounded ridiculously cheap. Really, kind of again challenging the traditional retail model where all the what was it called? The blades were always in lock boxes and things like that.
Yeah.
So the video was called "Our Blades Are Fucking Great,"
Yeah.
and the content was really kind of around how we can basically put money back into your pocket. So the key elements of the video really kind of came down into 5 or 6 core things. It was authentic. It was authentic because it was actually Michael Dubbin on the video himself. And it was natural, very relatable. The delivery made the brand feel very genuine, trustworthy, but really like it's like your next door neighbor just working out of his garage, so to speak.
Yeah.
It was humorous. The script was packed with memorable jokes, absurd little scenarios that entertained while conveying the product's value proposition. It was very simple. It was clearly explained the problem, expensive and inconvenient razors, and the Dollar Save Club solution was easily digestible format. The shareability, it became something that was easily shareable across multiple platforms at the time. So they released it on YouTube, but it quickly obviously created a lot of legs and continued to just build on itself, and it had an immediate impact. They had to sell 25,000. They had 25,000 razors in a warehouse in China at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And within 48 hours release of that video, it had amassed over 12,000 orders. I think within 72 hours, they actually sold all the razors that they had in stock. And then they were taking basically on wait lists. So immediately they struck a nerve with the consumer. Obviously there was high demand for these cheaper razors. And hence this was, this new venture was born. Now, the results and growth, obviously, like outside of outselling like their razors that they had in stock, the company gained massive influx of subscribers, building a strong consumer and base really, really quickly. Because I think within 4 years, they actually were bought out by Unilever.
Mm-hmm.
So the moment that they launched the company to 4 years later, so by 2016, I think they were purchased for $1 billion by Unilever, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Investor confidence. So because of this buzz and substantial investments fueling their expansion and product development, they were able to get really high rounds of investments. I think their first round of investment yielded like $9.8 million, and they were just able to fund activity. Obviously, the industry disruption is always something that is great, and a lot of people will always move to that. We have so many examples of that. You think about the Ubers, you think about the door delivery services, etc. There's a lot of opportunity there. And like I said, 2016 Unilever acquired Dollar Save Club for a reported $1 billion, highlighting the monumental success through. A lot of people kind of go back on that viral video. Obviously, there was a lot of things that played in their favor. The viral video just kind of helped add fuel to the fire. So just a few lessons that I think you can take from that. Storytelling is a powerful tool. Make sure that you're looking to leverage that. Authenticity matters, still matters, will always matter. Make sure that you are as authentic as possible. Leverage humor. I think we were talking to Ella Ward. Not Ella Ward. I don't remember right now. Anyways, we've talked to a few guests on how do you leverage humor consistently and wisely. It actually helps reduce that barrier to entry. But of course, sometimes your bold risk can pay off. You just never know. And always be testing. ABT, isn't that what you said at the start? And of course, I understand that audience. So I thought it was an interesting case study just to quickly highlight. But yeah, it's
a good one. I remember. So that was one of the case studies that Ritson used in his course.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, and it was a lot about the pricing and the product distribution strategy. And so I'm just trying to look for it here. I know I took some notes about this, but there is it was really great to hear about that. But the other thing that was interesting about that one is I'm pretty sure they only spent $5,000 for that video.
Oh yeah.
It was something crazy,
ridiculous.
Like that. Yeah.
It looks like you and I filmed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. And the other thing I think that was interesting about him, Michael was the guy's name.
Yeah.
He had done like a fair bit of comedic training.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a
It's
funny guy to
comedy,
begin with.
comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were bought by Gillette, and then it ended up creating a problem for Gillette because they had this new direct to consumer channel. Speaking of direct to consumer, through Dollar Shave Club, but then it started putting pricing pressure on their own razors,
Yeah.
and then so there's this whole thing around the distribution channels and all that kind of stuff, and how they
Yeah.
manage that from a brand perspective, which is pretty interesting. Yeah, it's a cool study.
Yeah. Great study, but like that would have been amazing to be a part of that rocket ship, eh?
Yeah.
Within 4 years, $1 billion.
Yeah, sitting around going, what are we going to do with all these razor blades? And then 48 hours later, go, holy shit. We don't
We
have
need
enough
more.
razor blades.
The staff meetings then would have been quite funny.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For
Anyway.
sure.
So, ad of the week. What do you got? What'd you find?
Well, okay, so I've got this one. I just wanted to pull it up before I talk about it. So I sent you a note about this, I think, over the course of the summer. I'm like, out of the week, question mark.
Oh, right. The AI one. Yes.
So it's the first one that I've seen it, but McDonald's, surprise, surprise, McDonald's doing great things with their ads. They created an AI based video. It's nothing. It's for McDonald's Japan, so it's kind of like an anime kind of thing. It looks kind of like real people, but not quite real people. But it's definitely you can tell it's something, but it's not bad as far as like what you would think humans look like and in motion and all that kind of stuff. The point I think is really interesting, more so that they made this, quote unquote brand ad for almost no money. It was like relatively cheap to get the tools to make this thing, which then has downward implications for like creative agencies and all that kind of stuff. I don't know that it's going to make that much of a dent in the short term for big agencies or for big brands, but for sure for small companies, like, spend $100 on a subscription for like an AI tool that can help you build cool looking creative and load in your brand assets, and bada bing, bada boom. There's your
bada bing, bada boom.
I'm back with that.
There he is. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, you're right. Like looking at that video, you're like, okay, I'm not like, oh my goodness, this is the next best thing since sliced bread. However, the barrier to entry now and to compete at that level is a lot lower than it ever used to be. And I think that's where it's going to be really interesting to watch the space, where we may see more and more smaller companies get more visibility than ever before, a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Because of these tools, these AI tools. So I'm all for the little guy, man.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking about the Dollar Shave Club guy.
Yeah.
Right? $5,000. Like, and he got this amazing video.
Yeah.
And he had a huge impact on his company. And so now you've got these other tools like Midjourney and Luma and other things like that for, I don't know, a drop in the bucket, relatively speaking, for a small business. You can do some pretty amazing stuff, especially when you can get kids that are doing cool stuff with the tools that know how to. It's all about the kids these days.
Seriously though, like if you think about just the amount of, these tools are constantly evolving. Like there's so many different. Like I was even looking for a podcast and how to cut more content a lot more quickly and get it out there. And there's so many tools that you can obviously subscribe to that does a lot of that heavy lifting that used to be for video editors, and it's auto adding captions now. Like it's doing so many different things that you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, these tools are just going to get better and better. So yeah, it's kind of, it opens up more possibility, I think, than we ever had before.
I agree.
It could be really fun to play around with.
Yeah. So what's coming up next week?
Wow. I am very excited. We got Dan Ariely.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one.
Coming in. And we're recording this week, and we're going to probably publish it next week. Yeah, he's got a new book out. So for anyone that doesn't know, have a look at any of his TED Talk or his website, but any of his TED Talks that he's got. It was super interesting. He's
Yeah.
wicked smart guy with lots of really interesting perspectives. He's, in the behavioral economics landscape.
Yeah.
Primarily psychology, but also behavioral economics. Like, he's one of the founders of that field of study.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's got a new book out, Misbelief. And so we're going to ask him about that and how does the people in businesses specifically learn to misbelieve things. But his own story about how he got there is insane.
Yeah.
It's going to be really, really fun.
Yeah, when we scheduled Dan, it was one of those like pinch me moments. Like, okay, here we go. This is big. So, really excited.
He answered.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'm really excited. Really excited.
It should be good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and with that, V, we are back. We're back. It's almost September. We've got
almost September.
Fall's around the corner. Leaves are turning.
That's right. I have a great fall lineup as well.
Yeah.
I think everyone's really going to enjoy the fall lineup. But more than anything, we just have even more tools in our tool belt to go chase that profitability.
You're right. And we can get after it now because we've had a good rest.
Oh, yeah. I feel great.
Okay, buddy. Well, until next week.
You have yourself an incredible week, my friend. And we'll chat soon.
All right, man. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.